Rubio warns Europe of new era in geopolitics before big Munich speech. Bangladesh Nationalist Party sweeps to victory in first election since Gen Z uprising. Japan says it seized Chinese vessel amid tensions with Beijing. And former Israeli Prime Minister Barak responds to criticism over close Epstein links. Good afternoon. Welcome to the World in 30 Minutes on Politics and Business Television. I am Omike Joseph Matthew. Many thanks for joining us. Details of these news stories and more content to come after this break. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has spoken of a defining moment and a new era as he travels to Europe for a major speech to the Munich Security Conference. Rubio will lead the U.S. delegation at the first major global event since President Donald Trump threatened Danish sovereignty with a pledge to annex Greenland. French President Emmanuel Macron has insisted Europe must prepare for independence from the U.S., while NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has stressed that transatlantic bonds are as close and important as ever. The war in Ukraine, tensions with China, and a potential nuclear deal between Iran and the U.S. are also on the agenda as the Security Conference gets underway. The world is changing very fast right in front of us, Rubio told reporters when asked if his message to Europeans would be more conciliatory than a year ago. At last year's conference, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance attacked Europe, including the U.K., for policies on free speech and immigration. His speech triggered a year of unprecedented transatlantic tension. Some 50 world leaders are set to attend this year's event, where European defense and the future of the transatlantic relationship will be discussed at a time when U.S. commitment to NATO have been called into question. Still in the U.S. President Donald Trump has reversed a key Obama-era scientific ruling, the 2009 endangerment findings, which declared that greenhouse gases pose a threat to public health. This ruling has formed the legal foundation for federal efforts to reduce emissions, particularly from vehicles. The White House described the move as the largest deregulation in American history, claiming it will lower vehicle costs and save automakers about $2,400 per car. Trump called the previous policy a disastrous Obama-era measure that halts the auto industry and raises prices for consumers. Environmental groups criticize the rollback as the most significant attack on climate change regulations to date and plan to challenge it in court. Former President Barack Obama warned that repealing the finding would make Americans more vulnerable to environmental risks. The centre-right Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, has secured a landslide majority in parliament 18 months after mass protests ousted the country's longest-serving Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. The party took more than two-thirds of seats in the historic general election, with Jamaat, the country's main Islamist party, coming second. Hasina's Awami League was banned from taking part. BNP leader Tariq Rahman is said to be the next prime minister and faces huge challenges in getting the economy back on its feet and restoring democracy after 15 years of authoritarian rule under Hasina. Voters also backed sweeping democratic reforms in a referendum held alongside the election. He was elected to parliament for the first time as one of 212 successful BNP candidates. The Election Commission put vote turnout at 59.44%. It is a huge change of fortunes for a man who spent 17 years in self-imposed exile in London. He took over as head of his party after his mother, former PM Khalida Zia, died in December. During his campaign, Tariq Rahman promised that democracy would be restored, reviving the country's economy, bringing rising food prices under control, and creating jobs for Bangladesh's huge young population are the big challenges facing the new government. Japanese authorities say they have seized a Chinese fishing vessel that tried to flee when ordered to stop for an inspection in a move that may further fuel tensions with Beijing. The boat was in Japan's exclusive economic zone of Nagasaki Prefecture in the southwest when it was intercepted and its captain arrested on Thursday, according to the country's fisheries agency. The vessel's captain was ordered to stop for an inspection by a fisheries inspector, but the vessel failed to comply and fled, the fisheries agency said. The seizure is the first time since 2022 that the agency has seized a Chinese fishing boat. China has yet to react to Japan's statement. There were 11 people aboard, including the captain, who is a 47-year-old Chinese national, the fisheries agency said. Authorities and Japanese media have described the seized vehicle as a tiger net fishing boat with a high capacity. Thursday's incident comes amid strained relations after Japan's Prime Minister Senya Takachi enraged China in November by suggesting Tokyo would intervene militarily if Beijing sought to take Taiwan by force. China has long insisted that Taiwan, occupied for decades by Japan until 1945, is its territory. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak has said he regrets maintaining a relationship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein after the latter's 2008 conviction for procuring a child for prostitution, as the reverberations from millions of files release pile up. In an interview with Israel's Channel 12 on Thursday, Barak gave his first comments on his relationship with Epstein, who died by suicide in prison in 2019. Since the United States Department of Justice released a massive tranche of files relating to the late financier, Barak, who led Israel from 1999 to 2001, expressed remorse over his lengthy relationship with Epstein, saying he regretted the moment he met the financier, to whom he was introduced by former Israeli President Shimon Peres at a large event in Washington in 2003, Peres referring to Epstein as a good Jew. But despite Epstein having been convicted of procuring a minor for prostitution in 2008 and spending about a year in prison during the course of their relationship, Barak claimed he was unaware of the scope of Epstein's crime until a wider probe into him was opened in 2019. You're still watching The World in 30 Minutes live on Politics and Business Television. Still to come, Turkey's central bank lifts 2026 inflation forecast. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Turkey's central bank on Thursday increased its estimates for inflation as officials try to rein in soaring price increases that have weighed on the economy for years. The official inflation rate is now seen falling to between 15 to 21% by the end of this year, up from a previous forecast of 13 to 19%. The forecast will still be a sharp decline from the annual inflation rate of 30.7% in January, following years of interest rate hikes in a bid to slow runaway price increases. However, the official figures are disputed by ENAC, a group of independent economists that publishes its own data every month, with the organization saying year-on-year inflation stood at 53.4% in January. Turkey has expressed double-digit inflation since 2019, making life increasingly more expensive for millions of people after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan ordered interest rate cuts in a bid to spur growth. The cut sent the lira plunging on currency markets, further fueling inflation and leading Erdogan to reverse his unorthodox policy in 2023. But in January, the central bank cut its benchmark interest rate to 37%, citing a continued slowing of price increases. French police have arrested a woman in her 50s after the bodies of two newborn babies were found in a freezer in eastern France. The discovery was made on Tuesday when a man alerted authorities after finding one infant's body in his freezer at his home in Alivelas, Aix-les-Mort. When police arrived, they found a second body. Investigators quickly suspected the children's mother, who had reportedly left the home without notice. She was later arrested in Boulogne-Billancourt, a suburb west of Paris. The woman is believed to be the mother of 9 children from 2 relationships. The town's mayor, Jean-Claude Tramusel, expressed shock over the incident. The case is the latest suspected infanticide in France. Similar incidents have occurred in recent years, including a 2022 case in southern France involving 2 newborns, and earlier cases in 2015 and 2009 where mothers received prison sentences for killing their infants. The FBI has released the first physical description of a man suspected of kidnapping 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of U.S. news anchor Savannah Guthrie. Nancy disappeared 2 weeks ago from her home in Tucson, Arizona, after she was last seen on the night of January 31. Authorities believe she was taken against her will. After analyzing doorbell camera footage from her home, the FBI said the suspect is a man between 5 feet 9 inches and 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build. Investigators identified a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack worn by the suspect and also recovered a pair of black gloves during the search. This marks the first time the man seen in the video has been officially named as a suspect. Officials say Nancy Guthrie may be in serious health danger without her medication, as she is not in good physical condition, though she has no cognitive issues. Since February 1, the FBI has received over 13,000 tips and has increased the reward for information from $50,000 to $100 as the search continues. An artist based in Malaysia has filed a lawsuit against Air Asia and its parent company, Capital A Benhard, for allegedly using his artwork on one of the airline's aircraft without permission. Ernest Zacharevich, a Lithuanian-born artist who has lived in Penang for over a decade, claims that his famous 2012 street mural, Kids on Bicycle, was reproduced as part of a plane's livery in late 2024 without his consent or any licensing agreements. Licharevich said he becomes aware of the issue on October 2024 after seeing an Air Asia aircraft displaying artwork that closely resembled his mural. He alleges the design was publicly displayed and operated on the aircraft before being removed, but only after he raised concerns about its use. The mural, located in the heritage districts of Georgetown, Penang, shows 2 laughing children riding a real bicycle positioned as part of the artwork, originally created for a local festival in 2012. It has since become one of Penang's most iconic tourist attractions, with visitors frequently stopping to take photographs. The artist maintains that his work was unlawfully reproduced and publicly exhibited without his knowledge. By taking legal action, he is seeking accountability over what he described as unauthorized use of his intellectual property. And that wraps up the program. But before we go, the headlines once again. Rubio warns Europe of new era in geopolitics before big Munich speech. Bangladesh Nationalist Party sweeps to victory in first election since Gen Z uprising. Japan says it seized Chinese vessel amid tensions with Beijing. Former Israeli Prime Minister Barak responds to criticisms over close Epstein links. From me, Omike Joseph Matthew, do have a lovely day. Bye-bye.